definitely gonna get through these first three. If we have time, we'll get through these two. But this is kind of like a little bit of a mix of comics I'm caught up on and recent comics I've been reading. But like I've been looking a lot at coloring. So a lot of these have interesting coloring kind of methods and techniques. The only one that's a little bit off par is this guy, but I wanted to show him. Hey, thanks for the like, Terry. I appreciate it. But I wanted to show this one just because of the scale. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, we'll start off with Sonata. So this is Sonata. It's by David Hine, Brian Hanberlin. Oh boy, Jared Van Dyke. I want to say this is really cool. It's 2 volumes, but the art is insane. I'm really fascinated by it because it's really different. It's really unique. Oh my god! I'm gonna break what's in. No, we're good. But so this is it looks looks partly 3D generated, but partly not. And it's really interesting because like usually with like the 3D generated graphics I've seen, it's usually one artist. Like I usually see, if you're doing these models like the 3D rendering, I see the coloring being by the same artist. But this was done in like black and whites and then colored. So it's really interesting. The art's great, right? Like you can really see, so if we're looking close, you can kind of see some cell shading kind of style stuff with it, right? Like the bird is more 3D animated. I think she's 3D animated because she's got some more like cell animation style stuff. But there's some definitely like just digital painting on top of her too. Like it's definitely a cool combination. You look at the graphics here, definitely 3D animated there. Like you can definitely get that kind of feel for it. But it's a pretty cool comic. It's kind of like feels like Romeo and Juliet with space gods, kind of. This is the first volume. There's 2, but at the end of this one, it kind of like it's not quite that, but it's a good introduction. It's kind of that straightforward, like 2 battling clans over this planet, colonies over this planet. She comes from one. They're super like love and non-violence, and they settled here. Came to settle here. And there's these. Look at the art, man. That's set up. Look at that shit, man. Ooh, it is nice. But there's these cool fucking gods. There are these massive things that roam this planet. They remind me of like Todd McFarlane's like Malbolgia. They're super 3D. Here's more of them, man. More of the gods. Here's the guy, and his colony is like super pro-violence, but here are these ancient gods. And you can tell, here's where the 3D rendering really comes in. Like you see it, like especially in that one. See that 3D rendering in it, and it's so cool. I love it because then it meshes more with this, which looks way more just pen and ink on his face, you know, right here, like on him. Way more pen and ink than this guy. But there's this cool combination of them, man. I love it. So it's pretty. I mean, it's the writing is well done. Like you can tell, like very yin and yang, and they do the speech bubbles great too. You know who's talking. Orange is the guy, and he's like pro-violence. Green is the girl, she's pro-life. It kind of plays out kind of like, oh my god, dude, check this out. Check that art out. Both pages, both the cover and this shit, dude, them coming into orbit. But look at those cool gods. Look at that cool bird she's on too. But these god things are just fascinating. Cool stuff. I love that. That's like coming into orbit. 3D parachutes. It would make sense. I totally understand why you want to do a 3D parachute, though. To be totally honest with you, that's a pain in the ass to draw. Same as like a lot of stuff like this. But it wasn't colored, Somebody went through and colored it differently, man. And it's so fascinating. I love it. Good hold here. I like the hold on these 3 panels. Hold, hold, hold. It's good. It's good. Let me get a little bit further, but oh yeah, here we go. This is. I wanted to get to these guys. These guys are like the alien race that are native to this planet, and they're kind of they're not violent towards the new settlers. Look at that page, man. There's just so much cool here. Let's see if I can focus it a little bit more. So much cool architecture and shit in there. And it's more of that 3D, but I really look at the bird's wings, dude. Look at that. That beautiful texture there, dude. I don't mind it. But then you get like, this is very pen and ink, I would say. The strokes on him are super pen and ink rather than that 3D drawing. Oh. But yeah. So it's like they get trapped in this cave, and the cave is magical, and it's supposedly off limits to. Yeah, here we go. The 2 clans are kind of prepping for colonies are kind of prepping for civil war, but the girl, the alien native translator, and the guy all get kind of, oh man, look at that cover. That's another beautiful cover. They get trapped in these ruins, and the story really unfolds from there. It's like, it's pretty predictable, but like everything's all connected. It's an awesome story, and if you love this art, there's more than one god too, and that's what I love. Like if you watch like monster movies where they have like things something like this, usually you would get one cool god concept. Well, okay, we're gonna use that web series that just came out, not web series, Netflix series, Sweet Home, the K-drama with the horror. It was like they had maybe 3 different monsters total. They've got like 7, at least 7. I think there's more, but 7 different god character types. Like, and they're each unique. It's not just like one and they kind of gave up. It's like they had a plethora of these, which is super, super cool. Sorry, give me a sec. Checking something. Yeah. So if you like cool art and you're this is also for people who are like kind of touchy on the 3D digital art and they want to give it a shot and like see if it actually is worth it any good. Start dipping your toes with this, because this is what's really started to warm me up towards 3D model-ish, because this is a great blend. But yeah, this is, I don't want to go too further. I mean, it's you see this, and this is mostly kind of how the rest of the comic book looks. But I think it's really cool. I love it. And the reason why, here, we're going to flip to the back. I'm going to here make sure I don't, because I don't want to give you guys the spoilers, but yeah. So this is the early concept pages, and this is what really kind of blew my mind. Different kind of rendering style towards the completed finished pages that are printed here. But if you go in and look, especially like on these areas, there's gray tone. That's 3D rendered. So like if you look at, so her face, again, could be illustration or 3D rendered, but the material on her neck right here, that's definitely a 3D rendered material that they then threw a layer on of black and white, you know? But then they go through, and this colorist, I don't know how the colorist colors this, dude, because it's like, how do you not wreck the illusion of 3-dimensionality, right? Look at this bird. Great. That bird's definitely a 3D model. There's a few 3D models in there. But you hand it off to the painter and they keep it looking that same way. Like, I'd be so scared to lose the depth and how much detail and like precise rendering is already in it. And when I colored, I'm like, oh my god, I don't want to mess up the opaqueness. But the color has changed a lot too. Like if you look in the backgrounds, they changed a lot of those ink lines. So just a super interesting, shall we say, division of labor in this comic book. But I loved it, dude. I'm a big fan. They're coming out with another one too, so I think there's only 2 volumes of this because this same exact team is getting ready to come out with another comic book series. I think like this month, but it's like an space Errol Flynn. I can't remember his name, but yeah, these guys, science fiction is their niche for sure. Like definitely the next story they're telling definitely falls in the same kind of category. I think I'm going to stay with this one. I don't think there's insane, cool, crazy space gods in the next series, so I get all the cool art in this series, plus insane, crazy space gods. But let's go on to the next one. This is Brussli, so this is really cool. I actually really enjoy this comic book, and again, it kind of really fits in with that whole coloring mentality motif that we're going with. The reason why is so this is a kid's comic. It's printed by Humanoids, but it's their Humanoids Kid imprint. Maybe they say a couple F-bombs in here. Can't remember. Let's double check the age. 13 and up. There's a little bit of language. It's not bad at all. But so Brussli is Boy the Dragon Boy. This is pretty much like a Disney movie in comic book form. The first volume or 2, I'm not totally sure. I can't remember if there's 2 or 3 volumes in this. Hey, thanks for like, Allison. Hope the family's doing well. But the first 2-3 volumes of this are hand painted. So this is a hand painted comic for the most part, and yeah, it legit looks like a straight up here. We're gonna bring this a little bit closer. A Disney looks like a Disney film, man. It's so rad. Yeah, dude, I agree, Dustin, man. It's story's cool too. There's animals, like anthropomorphic animals, and people, and they kind of live separately. But like this dude finds a baby, an egg that comes out of the mine. So this is a huge mine, and he's there working. And pretty much it's just about this boy's life. Like this is a year. Here we go. This is freaking awesome looking painting. Like straight up. Dude, that's totally a Walt Disney film, man. Check that scene out. It's so good. But yeah, it's more about this boy. He's a half animal, half human, and you can kind of guess by the title what animal he is half of. But yeah, it's a cool, like I think 2-volume story. But let's get, yeah, man, I love his scenes, dude. Those are 2 great shots right there. Wow. Beautiful colored, and that's all hand painted. That's like either acrylic or gouache. I think this is probably acrylic. The way I can tell is if you look really closely at the corners, you can tell where the paint, like the painter's tape got ripped off and stuff. Like you can't shoot that digitally. But then when they, there he is, Brussli the Conqueror. That's what he kept calling himself. But it's pretty dope. Once he goes digital, the panel borders become straight, clean lines, and it's like you can tell a little bit. But yeah, this dude's got a talking. It's actually not the bunny. For a while, it is the bunny, but it turns out it's a talking flea. That's this amazing singer, but she's got a bit of an attitude. This guy's a hustler, so they got some good characters in it. It's pretty hilarious. But yeah, it's about like there's strange things going on in the mind, and that's kind of this first volume is about him finding out and stopping the things going on in the mind. And the second volume is kind of like him figuring out who his parents are. It's a great story, but ha wah woo-ha, right? It's a great kids comic if you want to get kids like a little like again it says 13 and up somewhere around there, 10 and 13. If you're interested in getting them in comics, this is not a bad one. But also if you like Disney movies, this is a Disney movie, just straight up animated. So I love it. I love the. I mean, it's a master. Here's the wolves. They're the bad guys. Dude, just look at that reaction. That just is just the funniest thing ever. I want to get this level of animation into my comics. It's fantabulous. And then you get this one too. This shot of them. It's great stuff, man. Yeah. So, do yourself a favor, check it out if you're interested in it. Can't go wrong, you know. Again, super big plus for Disney fans. But that's Brussli, Way the Dragon Boy. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Oh, here, let me show you the digital. Without spoiling the story, let's show you the digital painting. I'll flip to a digital page. Oh, this is perfect. So I'm going to flip to a digital page and then a fully painted page. And we'll see if you guys. Oh, here, I know which one. Can I show you that one? Is it? It's not too far in, but here, we'll go here. Not to spoil it, because that's a really cool scene. But come on, whoop. Well, you may have just seen it in it. So like, yeah, this is the hand painted. It's what you guys have been seeing. And then this is the digital, and you can kind of definitely see it in this page. And get the glare out of it, especially in him through here. The shadows, or the delineation of shadows and color, got smoothed out a little bit. It's a little bit rougher in those first pages, but again, it's still pretty faithful to. It's a pretty good page. It's still pretty faithful to the painted, hand painted. It still looks like a Disney movie, which is rad. So yeah, grab this. I think anybody would enjoy this one, to be honest. It does take a little while to get through, just because there's a lot of. I mean, it's usually 10 panels per page. Okay, maybe 8. 8 panels per page is still a hefty number. Yeah, 8 panels per page is about the number you're looking at, and that because there's a lot of dialogue. It's good dialogue, very good look. Very good dialogue, but there's a significant amount of it. So, yeah, it's pretty funny though. It's funny story. Next one. This is for people who are fans of like, I'd say like Firefly. 100%. If you're a fan of Firefly, you should check out Warship Jolly Roger. It's by Montllo and Runberg. I don't know. I'm sorry. I am American, and I butcher every name possible. But yeah, it's like I said, fans of Firefly. It's a beautifully colored comic book. I was following these guys like in the Tumblr days when Tumblr was not censored at all. They were on it, but I mean, it's really cool. As we get into it, you'll see what it's colored. It's digitally colored. It's not. There we go. It's not really your traditional comic book line art. Again, it's kind of like animation, and that's kind of what I want to get closer to my comic style for looking like. More finished, complete art. Oh man, that's rad. But yeah, it's I don't know. Can you guys hear me when it's like this? Can you hear me? Yeah, you can still hear me. But it's about these escaped prisoners led by a disgraced former captain. This guy. But turns out he got blackmailed. He got set up. Kind of think like a Running Man, a la Running Man style setup. But now he's free. He's got nothing left to live for, so he's just getting revenge. He's tracking down the guy who did this to him. Who happens to be like the commander of the army, or like space fleet, you know, almost like or president. I don't know. He's really high up there, really high up there. But I would say the story. Oh man, look at that. The story, the writing is sharp. Like it's straightforward. Like it's writing similar to Sonata, so it's clean. You know, this writer knows how to tell a story. They know what beats to hit. So if you want good story writing, but yeah, both Sonata and Jolly Roger are very straightforward stories that really let the artists kind of sing. You know, they did. I mean, they may have made it difficult for the artists, but at the same time, I feel like they didn't. To write it, like at least clean cut, you know, but in a good way. But I mean, I love that scene. That's all like. There's not many black lines on that. There's not many rolling lines. That's more just digitally painted above the explosion. I'd already showed that, but like, especially there. Reminds me of that the book Object by Kelly and Hine. Very similar to that. So yeah, that's the guy who set him up. Yeah. But yeah, if you want a story like that, and his crew is pretty cool. One of them is a bit of a raging killer, and I think there's the second volume, and I think it's just 2 volumes. But yeah, this guy's a bit of a homicidal maniac. I feel like kind of locked down. He's killed somebody already, but he hasn't got on his spree yet. But I think he will. And then this kid's like he's telekinetic. He can move shit with his mind, shall we say. And he has this owl that he controls that just murks people. Love that space panel right there. And she's a mechanic. And she just gets blackmailed into working with them. But yeah, the first volume, the whole premise of the first volume, and I haven't started the second one. I just really want to show you guys this art and that. Is they all are gonna go steal the warship Jolly Roger. So that's kind of like what the first part's about. Is they're just, man, look at that art though. That's dope. I love it. So they're gonna go steal that. I mean, you can stare at this for days and then for days. The cool thing is, like, I'm pretty sure I know what exact brush he's using to get a lot of these cool strokes. So here we'll go. Let me show you the cool. That was not a good noise that book just made. Went too far. There we go. We're getting closer. There we go. So this guy. Not a spoiler because, again, they're going after it. You kind of know they're going to get it. But the painting on this, I know the pen that he's using to get a lot of these strokes. I use it a lot too in my digital art. So it's kind of cool being able to see what he's using. Especially with stuff like in here. Like you can see this painting. It's mostly just one brush, or one brush type. It looks like maybe a couple. But most of it is different textures created with the certain brush in Photoshop that I use too. Yeah, like creating this stuff, like those trees in the background. Pretty rad. I love it. I mean, if you're enticed by any of this art and you like Firefly, pick it up, my dudes. Pick it up. Warship Jolly Roger. There's only 2 volumes, so it's a pretty short series too. You don't have to get super committed. I think there's only 2. There's only 2 so far this year. But this came out a while ago, so I think we're good. Next one. All right, so again, this one isn't much for the color. This is more for the scope and scale that I was looking at last time we looked at comics. I just didn't have time to get to it. I wanted to show it to you because it's really cool. Warning: nudity, violence. I think we may have to skip through some parts, but I think the art's pretty cool. I dig the art style. Very rough, very concept arty, you know, kind of stuff like that. You see here. Here, let me just flip through some pages, make sure we're not catching anything. But he has a very large scale. Like, it reminds me of, I mean, just the epics. You know, the epics of yesteryear, but also like Warhammer, Philip Drouillet, shit like that. But I do enjoy it. This is a big page. This is cool. You know, you see here, you get the very concept arty. You know, if you played the video game, like any video game, like I think Diablo, World of Warcraft comes to mind. Yeah, if you like World of like that stuff. I keep saying World of Warcraft because of the fantasy, but it's really good art. You know, definitely all done digitally. I don't think there's much initial pencil work done before, but you got your big throne room. It's pretty cool. The story was meh, and I think it's just because from what I understand, I haven't read any Elric, but from what I understand, 3 stories kind of got condensed into one for this. But the art's just insane, man. It's cool. It's very, he's the king of this like torture elves, essentially dark torture elves. But he's a pretty big badass. But you get some awesome art in it. Yeah, they get into a battle scene here. Oh, look at this scene. That's dope. I love that. Let's get a close up of that. Man, look at that work. That's dope. When I look at it now, I see a lot of James Stokey in it, but I know, like, I don't think that had much influence. But similar digital coloring with the white specks and just everything else. Yeah, because he goes to war, and they have some amazing war scenes in this. Like, you just get these big, sprawling panels. They're just, he got his army, and they're just getting ready to go off into the sunset to go fight. Pretty Viking photos. I mean, it's all just badass, dude. If you want fantasy reference, get this book. I mean, the entire thing. It's more of concept art than a comic book, but it's told sequentially. And that's just a tip in my hat to the artists who did this book, because it's visually, you know, Legacy of Kain, maybe Soul Reaver, stuff like that. If you're a fan of, visually great. Love it. It's dope. Definitely has his own style of faces. Like, I can tell this guy's at work whenever I see his faces. Never mind, different guy. But like they've got the what I was trying to say is they have the same face structure. So he's developed, like you can see it in here. These two different guys. He's developed his own skull. Like, he definitely has his own skull shape that he bases most of his skulls and more specifically facial structure off of, which isn't bad. It means he has his own language, so that's dope. Or they, I don't know how I don't know how the art responsibilities were divvied up. I think they say in the back, but I'm just a little bit lazy right now, so I'm not gonna check. But yeah, do yourself a favor. If you want like a comic book full of fantasy concept art, this is where it's at. There's also a second one too. If you like the Elric stories, you may like these. I don't know, with the consent story, but like, don't go searching for the second one if you thought, unless you're like a big Elric fan. Because you get the first one, you get the dope art, and the story's like, eh. So they're just my thoughts. But if you are super into it, get the second one. Or at least get this one. Get one or two of them for that art. And see this art in real life, because it's every gosh dang time. That's okay. All right, last book. This book is A Bit of Madness This is more. This is a fully painted book, so I'm pretty excited to show you guys this one. But this is for definitely for fans of like Lord of the Rings. If you like Lord of the Rings, this book like literally could fit in it, but like not in a. I'm just riding off the coattails of Lord of the Rings. This is a amazing in its own way fantasy story that could just happen to be set in the Lord of the Rings, if you get what I'm saying. But it's a bit of madness. Fully painted. I've gotten through the first volume, and this is so cool. They do kind of like this chess board, the chess characters, chess thing of all the characters who are playing. It's kind of a cool idea. So you can get kind of like introduced to all the heavy hitters of the story before you even flipping in. Especially with a story that has more characters. Like, if you lose track, you can always come back to this just to see who's who and what's going on. It's a great idea to have. I'm definitely going to be throwing it in my comic book as well. You know, because these aren't necessarily established characters either. These are, look at that painting, man. And this whole comic is just going to be amazing, amazing painting. There we go. It's the first volume, which is as far as I've gone, because it's taken me a while to soak these pages in. Because look at these pages, man. They're breathtaking. It's just astonishing. But the first volume is like this I'd say gnome almost. Iguk is sent. This is Iguk. He's sent to go to the queen, or he's called on by the queen. In the first volume, it's just his journey getting to the queen, and so that's what really reminds me of that Lord of the Rings stuff. But he meets a lot of people on the way. But the art is so cool, and some of that art that you have to really look close into the panels to see everything. But the villain, this upcoming villain, dude, this whole scene where the villain just invades this town is so cool. It's such a throwback to the ring wraiths too. Again, it's a very, very cool. Yeah, man. Here we go. Very cool fantasy story, right here. Let's get closer so you guys can really see the art. Mad Villain. Mad Villain's got some magic, though. I tell you what, shocks the hell out of this dude. I'm pretty sure he's the king, if I can remember correctly. But it's so cool, dude. It's airbrush. These goblins. Check out these goblins. And like Magic the Gathering, too. If you like the Magic the Gathering card game, pick this up as well. Like old school fantasy, you know? The other book, Elric isn't quite old school fantasy. it kind of is, but it's like not just the straightforward sword and sorcery tale. But yeah, and they get you meet a lot of different kind of normal characters that you would. We got fairies. Fairy kind of shoots down. You got these gnomes, and so many times in this comic book, it's really cool. The characters really disappear into the landscape. Let me see if there's a good. Well, here I'll try to use this panel as an example. You see it'll happen a lot throughout the comic, but this is a landscape. That little bump right there, that's the main character. And it happens throughout this whole book. The main characters are just hidden in these beautiful landscapes. It's great, man. It's really good stuff. So, meets a troll. If you like that, if you like Hobbit, if you like Lord of the Rings, meet some mushroom people. It's pretty lighthearted, pretty funny. Do yourself a favor and check this book out. I'm excited to get through this because I mean it's a bit of a chunker. So it's about that thick. I mean I'd say about 200, at least around 250, probably around 250 pages I'd say. But 3 volumes are in it. Four. So there's 4 volumes. I've read through the first volume, but I just want to show you that art because it's so badass. The story's great. Yeah, check it out. A bit of madness. That's it for the day. We got through all the comics. I don't know how long this video was, but yeah, let's throw them all back out there so you guys can see what we went through. Hope you enjoyed seeing these comics. We'll flip through these comics as much as I did. I love looking at these. I always get something out of them. It's super rad. But those are the red books we read. Sonata, Brussli, Jolly Roger, Elric, and a bit of madness. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Later.